Good afternoon and welcome to The Problem of Being Awake. My name's Ben, I'll be your host, and I have to say this, it's been a year and I'm not pro-Palestine because there is no Palestine. There's Gaza and there are Palestinians. The only place in recorded history where there could have been something like Palestine was in Syria, and it was in the 1st century. It was called Palestinia, but never has there been a land called Palestine. It's also to remember that Israel is exactly where Judea was, and that was founded by King David, who slew Goliath, and Bethlehem built by King Solomon. Now, all of these predated by nearly 1,000 years the birth of the Prophet Muhammad. So how can that land belong to anyone else? It doesn't. No history will actually tell you it does. I'm sympathetic to any innocent loss of life. It's horrible. And in warfare, it can be absolutely devastating. But I can tell you, if it was America or others doing that, the casualty rate of innocents would be much higher. Israel have run the best domestic war campaign in world history. And especially recently, they're picking off Hezbollah, the whole Hezbollah command, with very few civilian casualties. And I've actually watched those bombs go off, the pager bombs, the phone bombs. And I've seen a guy 2 feet from the actual terrorist when the bomb went off. He was injured, and not majorly. Those bombs were only designed to be lethal to people or lethal to take off the limbs of the people holding them. They weren't designed to kill anybody. They weren't designed for collateral damage, and they did their job. America said, don't go into Gaza. They went in there with a drone. And Sinwar, the mastermind of October the 7th, in the end, his final days were captured with him trying to throw a stick at a drone. And then they took him out. And Iran, an enemy of all of the Western world, who are hell-bent on getting a nuclear weapon, which, thanks to the lax sanctions of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they will probably have one by Christmas. They might have one sooner. And they spent almost 30 years trying to get one. And we've allowed it finally. This last 4 years under those two have been absolutely diabolical for world politics. And now Iran might have a nuclear bomb. Now they are simply terrorists with subjugated people underneath them. That's Iran. They aren't a country in that respect. They are a terrorist group of people who completely oppress their populace. They are one of the most dangerous countries in the world. And Israel has the right to strike back, and especially as they actually went for Benjamin Netanyahu himself. Whatever they do in retaliation is fine. Take out their nuclear sites, fine. Don't take out their oil sites, because unless we're going to take out the country, then maybe not. But one thing we can't do is we can't pander to the idea that the situation in Gaza is more serious. That is a failing idea. The situation in Gaza is a direct responsibility of Iran. Iran have threatened the West since they've made themselves known, since they were taken over by the Ayatollah. I happen to know that. I have one of my ex was Persian. That was the Persian Empire before, but the Ayatollah came in and changed everything. So Iran is on its knees with its proxies damaged. It has its leadership damaged, but it needs more. And the best thing to do is to go after Iran now. And that should bloody well be with our backing and our support and our thanks. Because Iran have the intention of coming after everybody, and they've put people all around the world to do just that. And if they don't deserve to go, and if North Korea doesn't deserve to go, then what country really is going to be an enemy? What do we do? Do we just put up with it until they launch a nuclear bomb? Or do we take them at their word that, considering that was their intention and has always been, that when they get it, they're going to do it and act preemptively? I would prefer not to have any type of nuclear war. I don't think I'm alone there. But letting Iran build up their uranium stocks and be able to actually make a nuclear bomb and then make hundreds is probably the worst idea since mixing bread with mud. Now, Iran have played their hand. They've overplayed their hand and they failed because they were just throwing money and weapons and they wanted to destroy out of hate. And Israel wanted to win a war. And that's very different. And if you look back, history will show that the civilian casualty rate was unavoidable and has been massively reduced over time. So if you look at the operations now, it's much more targeted. And that's how you would expect a war to be. But this war needs to end and focus towards Iran. If we take them out, the possibility of peace in the Middle East is very real. If we don't, it's probably not, because they will always be interfering. Not a lot of people know that the Abraham Accords, which Donald Trump started, were due to be signed, I think about 5 or 6 days after October the 7th. It was within a week. They were due to sign. Saudi Arabia and Israel were to declare peace and amnesty in the Middle East. And Iran orchestrated October the 7th because they could not allow that to happen. And what's happened this year, or, well, for part of this year, the Saudis have finally started diplomatic negotiations with Iran. So that wasn't a sensible move. So, pro-Palestine, I really do hope the people from Gaza find their home. I hope they get the hate indoctrinated out of them, because that's a requirement and quite a real and fair one by Israel before they can border with them again. And they're happy to outsource that. They're happy to give it to Egypt or give control to a Muslim country. They're open to suggestions, but they're not just going to let everybody back in, because then Iran will just send a whole load of weapons, appoint one of them as a leader, and that will become a new terrorist group. It's the only way it will work. So after a year of protesting for Palestine and a whole load of young middle-class students thinking they know more about world politics and the history of the region than the people who've studied it forever. I mean, watch Douglas Murray, listen to him and see if you can match your knowledge against his to 5%. I don't think anyone in the protests can do that, except for maybe the paid agitators. We have too many terrorist leaders from Iran, funded by Iran, in the Western world. We know where they live and we know they're funded by Iran. We do nothing. And we're coming to an unparalleled situation in the world of imploding possible nuclear wars. Why not stop one? Hopefully we can stop them all. Hopefully it never happens, but it's on the bloody table now. It wasn't, and it now is, thanks to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. It is now on the table, and it needs to be taken off the table. Donald Trump's the right man to do that, because he'll do it by sanctions, but he'll do it, as I say, peace through strength. When it comes to Iran, they don't listen. They don't have an economic interest except in selling their oil. So you can sanction them that way, but they'll always come back and they'll always fund terror until we stop them. So why not? And with that, I'll leave it there. That's my opinion. It's not popularly held. I don't apologise for it. You be lucky, I'll be good.